Good morning, everyone. We are exploring the rich and complicated history of Christianity and studying the Bible in context. We identify bad theology and misconceptions about God, the Bible, about hell, and following Jesus' teachings. If you find this video helpful, please let us know in the comments section below. We'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences. We are looking at Genesis chapters 42 through 44. Yes, I'm summarizing. We're not going to do verse for verse. There's a lot of repetition in there. Why is there repetition? Because they're trying to emphasize. Too long, didn't read. I'm going to summarize for you. Joseph and his brothers, grain, silver, and hidden truths. So, grain, silver, and hidden truths. Why did Joseph test his brothers? Why did Joseph test his brothers? Now, Alex and I were talking this morning. I don't think he was testing them. I think he was torturing them, right? He's a younger brother, and he suddenly has the upper hand. What do you think he's going to do to his older brothers? What do you think? Okay? As the youngest child in my family, trust me, we will get even. And it's usually through your children. That's why I'm the coolest uncle, right? Because they can do anything they want. They can do anything they want. Yeah, I'm not going to rat them out. What's the role of guilt in all of this? There is some guilt being carried by quite a few people. Why keep Simeon behind? What's Judah's big moment? This is the moment where Judah is really going to shine. And we'll talk about why that is and what the story teaches us, because that's the most important part. The people who collected these, first they're passed down through oral tradition. They kept telling these stories because they had something to say to us, something to teach us. They collected them, they edited them, they put them all together. There's something there that we need to learn, and that's how we need to look at these stories. What is it we need to learn? All right, Genesis 42 through 44. Here's the story so far. Joseph, Jacob's favorite son, is sold into slavery by his brothers. And if you watch the play, there's a whole song in there. He is sold to Potiphar in Egypt. He is falsely accused and thrown into jail. In jail, God gives him the interpretation to dreams. Now, this ability to interpret dreams shows a very special relationship with God throughout the Old Testament. It's a symbol you'll see. But Joseph, of course, acknowledges, I don't interpret the dreams. God gives me the interpretation through the dreams. And we'll see that also play out in the book of Daniel, in the court tales of Daniel. Pharaoh has disturbing dreams, and a former prisoner, the cupbearer, remembers that Joseph can interpret it. So, God gives Joseph the interpretation. Joseph becomes a chief administrator. So he's like a prime minister, chief administrator, and he takes care of this famine situation, collecting up grain and then later distributing it. Famine strikes the land. Now, when famine strikes Canaan, again, remember, they're dry farmers. They are dependent upon the rain. And so famine comes and goes for them. If there's no rain, there's no crops. They're dry farmers. But Egypt uses irrigation, and the Nile overflows and brings up rich silt. So they're very productive when it comes to grain. So anytime there's problems in Canaan about no rain, everybody goes to Egypt for food. But it gets so bad that even Egypt is suffering famine, but they've stored up for it. Now Jacob sends 10 sons to buy grain. How many sons does he have at home? 11, right? He believes Joseph is dead. The youngest son, Benjamin, is the last child of his beloved wife. But she died in childbirth, giving birth to Benjamin. So he doesn't send Benjamin. He's very protective of Benjamin. Benjamin is the very beloved child. Joseph recognizes his brothers. They show up, they come to the court, and he recognizes them. Oh, I recognize you. You threw me in a pit and then sold me off. But they don't recognize him. And there's a lot of question about why didn't they recognize him. Now, again, this is kind of part of the beauty of Scripture, of these stories. Most likely the original audience would have understood why they didn't recognize Joseph. But, here we are thousands of years later, departed from the original context. We're like, I don't know. Why not? It never explains motives, never explains reasons. It just says this is what happened. I would say the most likely reason is that Joseph was sold into slavery when he was 17. At this point, he'd be 30. Now, I don't know about you, but, I changed appearance between 17 and 30. That apparently the older you get, your appearance does change a little bit. Plus, he was most likely dressed in Egyptian garb, and he probably was wearing Egyptian makeup. That would be befitting to his station. So they did not recognize him. Now you got the younger brother with the upper hand. Woo! Was he testing them? Now, a lot of people will tell you he was testing them to see if they had changed. And that may be the thing. As the youngest child, from my perspective, he was torturing them. He's like, sell me into slavery. Time for you guys to take a ride. Watch this. So he accuses them of being spies. You guys are here. You're here to spy on us, to see where we're weak. I don't trust you. And this would be normal behavior for an Egyptian, because the Egyptians did not trust shepherds. The people in Canaan were shepherds, and they didn't trust shepherds. Shepherds are nomadic. They're unsettled. They're uncivilized, according to the Egyptians, right? Here we are. We're civilized. We stay in one place all the time. We build cities. We grow crops. You guys are out there wandering around doing who knows what. We don't trust you. Kind of think of them like gypsies. We don't trust gypsies, do we? The Romani, we don't trust the Romani. Why? Because they're nomadic. They don't stay in one place. And so we blame them for everything, for crimes and everything else. We don't trust sort of nomadic people. Joseph accuses them of being spies. And then Joseph says, look, he's questioning them. Tell me about your father. Tell me about your mother. Is he alive? Is he dead? Maybe he's trying to get information for himself, checking up on his family. But he asked them about brothers. So is this everybody? And they say, no, we got one brother at home. In the next chapter, Jacob's like, why did you tell him that? You shouldn't have told him that. He asked. He asked us about brothers. We were being truthful because we were being accused. You weren't there. So we told him about Benjamin, yes. He says, okay, well, where is he? Why isn't he here? And of course, it's explained to him, well, he's very beloved to our father. Our father doesn't want to be parted from him. So we left him, oh no, I think you're lying. You're lying to me. You're spies. They're like, no, really, he's there. And what happens is Joseph strikes a deal. You leave one brother behind, and you can go get Benjamin. And when you bring him back, then I will believe you, and I'll release your brother from jail. So Simeon ends up being the one thrown into jail. Now, Simeon is son number 2. Reuben, sort of the de facto leader, even though his leadership is a little shaky, and we'll reiterate why in a second, goes back. Simeon gets left behind. So they have to go back to Jacob, one brother short. Jacob sends them with grain, but then he takes the silver they had brought and he sticks it back in the bag. He instructs his servants, take the silver, stick it back in their bag. So when they stop for the night as they're traveling, they open up their bags to give some grain to their animals, there's all the silver. Now they're in a really bad situation. Oh man, they're going to think we ripped them off. They already don't trust us. Now they're going to think we ripped them off, that we stole the silver back. What are we going to do? So anyway, they finally make it back to their father, and they got all this silver with them. But Jacob refuses to send Benjamin. And his words are very, very telling. He says, I've already lost one son, that would be Joseph, and now I've lost another. That would be Simeon. He decides he's going to let Simeon rot in jail rather than send Benjamin. Do parents play favorites like that? Would you just let one of your kids rot in jail? Right? He's only the second son, not even from my favorite wife. She can just stay there. He can just stay there. I'm keeping this one. That's my favorite. You already took my other favorite one from me. So Jacob refuses to send him. Reuben is going to plead. Now, Reuben is the de facto leader. He's the eldest son. He's number 1. He's the son of Leah, the firstborn. And he pleads for Jacob to send Benjamin so that they can retrieve Simeon. Simeon is his brother. Same mother. Reuben even offers his own sons as collateral. Listen, if I don't bring Benjamin back, you can kill my 2 sons. That kind of gives you an idea of how important children were during this time period. They were still perceived pretty much as property until they became full adults. How do you like that deal? Hey, kids, I'm going to take Benjamin to Egypt. You guys stay here with Grandpa. If I don't come back with Benjamin, well, he's going to kill you, but, I can always make more. Can you imagine having that conversation with your grandkids? I was talking with John this morning. John, right? John. I was talking with John this morning about, I don't have kids. I have dogs. And they've become surrogate grandchildren, okay? Trust me. No, but my parents would not be harming them in any way, shape, or form. The only way they harm them is probably their cholesterol levels with all the bacon and stuff that they give them. So after this first purchase of grain, they've all come back. Reuben pleads, I need to take Benjamin there. Jacob's like, not a chance. To me, Simeon's dead. They run out of grain. The famine continues for quite a while. How long is it supposed to continue? 7 years. Why 7 years? Was it an actual 7 years, a literal 7 years? Probably not. 7 just indicating that it's run its full course. It's a number of completion. So the famine's going on for a while. They run out of grain. Jacob's like, you're going to have to go to Egypt and buy some more. And all the brothers are like, we can't go back to Egypt. We were told not to show back up unless we bring Benjamin. That if we show up without Benjamin, that the guy in charge won't even see us. Not only that, but we ended up with the silver that we took and gave to them. It came back, and they're going to accuse us of we can't go back to Egypt. There's no way. But Jacob's insistent, you're going to have to go back. You must go back. And this is the time where Judah steps up. Judah is going to show some real leadership skills at this point. Now, he's made mistakes in the past, like selling off his brother, but this is where he pleads with Jacob to send Benjamin. You're going to have to do this. If you want to save the family, if you want to save our herds, we have to take Benjamin with us. Otherwise, there's no way we're getting grain. We have to do this. And then he agrees. So Jacob agrees and he sends Benjamin with him. Benjamin promises, I will take care of Benjamin. I will make sure he gets back. I will lay down my own life to make sure he gets back. And he pleads with him. Jacob finally agrees to send Benjamin. And Jacob sends gifts. He sends twice the purchase price. So for the first set of grain and now for the second set. Does this sound familiar? When Jacob had to reconcile with Esau, he sends all the gifts ahead of him, all this stuff, right? Kind of softened the blow a little bit. So he's sending gifts, he's sending twice the purchase price, and he sends Benjamin. On Judah's guarantee, I will personally be responsible for him. I will die before I let any harm come to him. On the return, the brother explains to the stewards come out to greet him first. Joseph's servants come out. And they explain, hey, funny thing, we were on our way back and we stopped and opened the bags to give some grain to our animals, and lo and behold, there was the silver. How did that happen? But Joseph had already instructed them, this is what's going to happen. So just bring them before me. So they bring him before. Joseph receives the brothers, and at the sight of Benjamin, seeing his younger brother, who he hadn't seen since he was 17, he begins to cry. He actually has to excuse himself. I'll be right back. I'm going to go have a good cry. Okay. Once he gets himself all composed, probably fixed his makeup, comes back out, and he serves them dinner. He feeds them this fabulous feast. But he does not eat with them. Why doesn't he eat with them? Because it's considered an abomination. It's considered an abomination for Egyptians to eat with shepherds. That's the same Hebrew word used in other verses like the clobber passages. It's probably a really bad translation. We probably should go for taboo, because taboo talks about culture and society and their perspective, right? It's taboo for Egyptians to eat with Hebrews because they are nomadic herders. You don't want to get near these, untrustworthy, dirty, uncivilized people. So they eat separate. Joseph sends the brothers back with grain. Here's all your grain. He puts all their silver back in the sacks. That's probably going to unnerve them once they get going pretty far. But then even worse, he takes his own personal cup made of silver, and he sticks it in Benjamin's bag. Now you can really take him for a ride. Somebody's a thief. Somebody stole my cup. Not only are you spies, but yeah, you are. These abominations, these herders, these untrustworthy people. Look, you stole my cup. After the brothers leave, Joseph has his servants catch up with them and accuse them of theft. And it's Judah who steps up again and says, look, you can search. We didn't steal anything. You can search all our stuff. And whoever's stuff it is, whoever has it will become your personal slave. If somebody actually has that cup, they will become your personal slave, and you can keep them. And the servants search, and what do they find? The silver cup in whose bag? Benjamin's. Now they got a crisis on their hands, right? Benjamin's caught with the silver cup. Judah's like, oh man. And of course, one of the things he says to himself is, you know why this is happening? You know why this is happening? It's because of what we did to Joseph. This is why this is happening. It's our guilt. God is punishing us because of what we did to Joseph. This is why this is happening. Joseph tells the brothers that Benjamin will be kept in Egypt as his slave. And it's Judah who intervenes once again, right? Judah pleads with Joseph to accept him as a slave instead of Benjamin. Look, if Benjamin doesn't get back, it will kill our father. He will literally die of a broken heart. I will stay in his place. I will be the slave. So he's really showing personal responsibility. He's really beginning to show some leadership, which this group really needs. Judah tells Joseph that keeping Benjamin will kill his father. Now, what I want to point out, having heard this story, there's a lot of repetitive stuff in the 2 chapters. What is the story really about? And it's a story about leadership. Something interesting is going to happen. In this long saga about Israel, they're going to go through all their tribal period. Eventually, they're going to have a monarchy. That monarchy is going to fail, and the nation's going to divide. Nation's going to divide. 10 kingdoms go north, 2 kingdoms go south. But those 2 kingdoms that go south are always referred to in the same way as Judah, because Judah is the one who seems to be the best leader. And it's from the tribe of Judah that the leaders come from. Who else comes from the tribe of Judah? Jesus is descended from the tribe of Judah. Because it's a story of leadership. This is the way that leaders need to be. You want a good leader, you look to the tribe of Judah. You want a bad leader, you look to the tribe of Reuben. Reuben loses his place in the family as a leader. You remember why? Because he slept with one of his father's wives, which culturally is a attempted coup. You're not the head of the family anymore. I am. That wife, mine. And so Jacob literally curses him. Simeon was brother number 2. He's considered dead. Why? Although Reuben is the eldest and had tried to save Joseph before, he's unable to convince Jacob to send Benjamin because he's considered unstable. He had previously dishonored Jacob. He proved untrustworthy. When it comes to the other brothers, Simeon, the second son, is held in prison as collateral, and Jacob considers him dead. Why? Because Simeon and his brothers 2 and 3, sons 3 and 4, are considered too violent because of what they did in Shechem. Remember the story of Shechem? That's Dinah. Their sister gets raped, they go and they kill all the people. And they make Shechem unlivable. Jacob can't stay there anymore. Jacob can't graze his flocks there anymore because of what they did. Forces them to move. They prove that their leadership is not very good. So we have all these sons who should be by right, culturally by right, should be the leaders, prove themselves incapable of leadership. Judah, the 4th son of Jacob, he's the 4th son of Jacob and Leah, demonstrates the right kind of leadership. And that's really what this is about. It's all about leadership. What's the right kind of leader? Okay? Looking at the verses here, Genesis 43, 8 through 9. Then Judah said to Israel his father, send the boy along with me, and we will go at once, so that we and you and our children may live and not die. Why does Judah want to take Benjamin? So that the whole tribe can live. The whole tribe can live. He's thinking beyond himself. He's thinking about the welfare of the entire tribe. I myself will guarantee his safety. You can hold me personally responsible for him. If I do not bring him back to you and set him here before you, I will bear the blame before you all my life. He shows personal responsibility. It'll be nobody's fault but mine. There'll be no blame shifting. I'm not going to point the finger at anyone else. It will be my fault. The buck stops here. Judah takes personal responsibility. That is really hard amongst leadership nowadays. How many of you have worked for a boss who likes to shift the blame to somebody else? Do you respect them as leaders? No, you don't. Why is Harry S. Truman one of our more popular presidents? Because of the sign that's set upon his desk. The buck stops here. You don't just keep passing the buck. It stops right here. Ultimately, I am responsible for everything. One of our political leaders also was amazing. Janet Reno. There's a lot of things she did, But when there was a major problem, and the press asked her, who's responsible for this? What does she say? I am. She took responsibility. And people admired her for that. There is something wrong with our current political leadership that is incapable of accepting personal responsibility. It's always somebody else's fault. There's always somebody else to blame. And they don't understand that the American public is more than willing to forgive if you take personal responsibility. That we admire people who take personal responsibility. He goes for more grain so that everybody might live. In other words, I'm not doing this just for myself. I'm not going to profit from this personally. I'm doing this for the entire tribe. It's interesting, when you look at the word politics, it comes from the word polis, P-O-L-I-S, polis, which means people. Our politics is supposed to be for the people. That the people in charge, the government, the politicians in charge, should be doing everything they do for the people to make sure that their lives are better. Things like, hey, we need clean water. That was one of the first rules set up in Deuteronomy and Leviticus. All right, so latrines outside the camp. No latrines in the camp, because we got to make sure that it's healthy and hygienic for everybody. Yes, it may be more convenient for you not to have to go all the way outside the camp to do your business, but guess what? We have to think about everybody. And our politics should be doing the same thing. What kind of things would be beneficial for everybody? Roads benefit everybody. Infrastructure benefits everybody. Having bridges where they're needed, having, hydroelectric dams, having, solar power. All these things benefit everybody. Having things like healthcare benefits everybody. Clean air benefits everybody. But when you begin to get politicians who are looking out for special interests for corporations, then we have a problem. Well, if you put all these regulations on us to make sure that the air is clean, we make less profit. But tell you what, if you take those away, we'll share that profit with you, Mr. Politician, Mr. Senator. Okay, cool. Who cares if all these kids grow up with asthma and other breathing problems because they're exposed to all this pollution? Hey, if you put all these regulations on us about clean water, we'll make less profit, but we'll share it with you, Congressman. If you take those regulations away, hey, that's cool. Who cares if it leads to more thyroid cancer? See what's happening? Our politicians are not looking out for everybody else. They're not looking out for the good of the people. Does that make a good leader? Absolutely not. But Judah is looking out for the entire tribe, not just for himself. And this is why he will become prominent. He will become prominent amongst the 12 tribes because he shows the best leadership. Who shows the worst leadership? It's actually not Reuben. Anybody know who showed the worst leadership amongst the 12 tribes? It's Dan, the tribe of Dan. If you look in later list of the 12 tribes, his name is actually removed. His name is removed. He's not even counted amongst the 12 tribes anymore. That's how bad his leadership was. Judah's actions reflect the care for others, both for Benjamin and for Jacob. I will make sure he's safe. I will stay and be slave so that he can go home. I will take the personal responsibility. I have to care about my father. He's caring about other people. That's what leadership should do. Not care about themselves only, but care about other people. His decisions aren't based on what is good for him. And again, as long as I am still able to openly critique our government before they label me some kind of insurrectionist, undesirable, revoke my citizenship, okay, I think we should. Our government is here to serve us. We don't serve it. And when it gets to the point that only the special interests are benefiting, it has stopped to be the polis. It's stopped to be politics. It's not for the people anymore. And we need the people to speak out. As I've talked to several of you over time, looking at history, what I see coming down the road is more political violence if we don't change course. And I don't want political violence, but it's coming unless we change course. Good leaders base their decisions on what's best for everybody, not the special elite. Now, do you desire to be a leader? A lot of people, I don't want to be a leader. A lot of people don't want to be a leader because they don't want the responsibility. Some people want to be leaders. I want to be a leader so I can tell people what to do. They like the power. They want to be a leader because that's where you make the money. Some of them want to be leaders so they can have revenge on people they felt wronged them in the past. Now, I've been working for the Coast Community College District for almost 40 years now, and I've never involved myself in the politics there. I don't want to. There are some people, they can't wait to be a dean or a vice president or a chancellor or whatever there's going to be, right? Because that's where the money and the power and the authority. I don't need any of that stuff. I like being in the classroom. I like teaching. That's what I like to do. I don't want to play all this politics nonsense. And I've been lucky that I've been able to. But do you want to be a leader? Do you want to be a leader? Then you have to ask yourself what kind of leader you're going to be. Are you in it for yourself or are you in it for the people? Are you in it to make other people's lives better? Are you willing to look out for the good of all? Not an easy thing to do. Because when you're in leadership, there are a lot of competing different groups and people, factions, that all want something. And you have to make that decision about what's going to be best for all of them. And so you will always be unliked by some group for some reason. You can't please everyone. There are some people who try as a leader to please everybody. They fail miserably. You have to realize that when you do what's best for everybody, you're going to make somebody unhappy. That's just the way that it is. When choosing our leaders, what kind do we want? What kind of leaders do we really, really want? It's a good question. I was amazed when Donald Trump ran and became the 45th president of the United States. The reason I was amazed is because of the words of Jerry Falwell Jr. Because he and his father before him, ever since the late 70s, had been beating the same drum and saying the same thing over and over again. They criticized any leader, any Democratic leader, for any moral infraction, claiming we need a good, moral, spiritual leader. We need a spiritual leader who can be up there, who shows morality and integrity and all of these things. It's like, yeah, but, Jerry, you overlooked the fact that Ronald Reagan was divorced and remarried. He couldn't be an elder in your church because of that, and you're going to make him president? We just glossed over that. The Contra scandals, we'll just gloss over that. The adultery with the Bushes, we would just gloss over that. Not important. But when it got to Jerry Falwell Jr. and President Donald Trump, he changed the whole story. I'm not looking for a pastor-in-chief. I'm looking for a commander-in-chief, somebody who will get out there and fight. It's like, that's not the story you've been telling for the last 35 years. Suddenly, morality was no longer important, unless it's the opposition. We hold them to the highest scrutiny and standards. When choosing our leaders, what kind do we want? Because it's not Jerry Falwell who decides what makes a leader and doesn't. It's not Jerry Falwell Jr. It's not Franklin Graham. It's not me. It's all of you. What kind of leader do you want? Do you want one that's looking out for everybody? And this applies. There's an ancient concept. There's verses in Timothy, 1st and 2nd Timothy, that talk about choosing elders. And you had to make sure that elder's household was in good shape. Because if they can't run their own household, how can they run the church? But that didn't originate with the writers of Timothy, that thought. That's an old ancient thought. That if you're going to elect a king, you start with his household to see if he runs it. Because household, kingdoms, all that stuff, they're just extensions of one another. Households, tribes, kingdoms. That the kingdom was just like one large extended household. How well do you run it? If he can't run his own house, there's no way he can run a kingdom. How many times have we stopped nowadays and we look at our political leaders and say, well, what's their household look like? I kind of get tired of having political candidates who complain about my marriage, and I'm like, why? Does it interfere with your fourth marriage? Does it interfere with your fourth marriage that bad? I mean, I realize you were busy having an affair with wife number 3 while you were still married to wife number 2 and she's dying of cancer in the hospital. We're just not going to look at that at all. We're not going to talk about that. I get tired of political leaders who criticize my morality and that of our children when their own kids are busy having kids out of wedlock and doing things they shouldn't be doing. It's like, why don't you go home and fix your own house first? If you can't run your house, how do you expect to run this country? How do you expect to run it for the good of all? So I'd say these are the 2 key things. One, you have a leader who takes personal responsibility. The buck stops here. I'm responsible. And 2, somebody who's looking out for everyone, not just their own special interest. It's interesting. Did you guys know that in the early days of our government, back in colonial days, in the early days of our government, that our Congress people were not paid. They did not receive a salary. They received a per diem. They received a per diem only on the days that they were actually in Congress working. The rest of the year they got nothing, because it was originally, the concept was, it's considered an honor to be sent up there. It's considered an honor to do this work on behalf of your country. You're not up there to profit for yourself. Maybe we should go back to that. How many of these people do you think would run for Congress if they weren't going to get any money out of it? What if we told them you're only getting a per diem? What if we told them, hey, and you can't buy and trade stocks because you make too many laws that affect the price of those stocks? You make too many decisions about that. How many people do you think would actually run? They'd be like, I'm going into the corporate world. I'm going back to my job as a Fox News commentator. Did I say that out loud? Yes, you did. I got to stop using my Deborah said she'll edit that out. When we're choosing our leaders, what kind do you want? We really need to start thinking about this. It's interesting. When we talk about that split in the kingdom, the 10 tribes of the north to the south, Judah, a good leader, becomes representative of those 2 tribes in the south. Who becomes representative of the 10 tribes in the north? How is the north referred to? Anybody know? They're referred to as Ephraim. Ephraim? That's not one of the 12 original sons, is it? No, it's not. It's one of Joseph's sons. Ephraim and Manasseh, he had 2 sons. I also think it's interesting that it's the northern tribes. They're referred to as Ephraim, and Ephraim is half Egyptian. Interesting. Let's close in prayer. Lord Jesus, we just come before you. One, we thank you for your example of leadership, that you are the good shepherd who would lay down his life for his sheep, that you set aside all your own personal glory. You set aside everything to come here and to show us the way, that you look out for us constantly. And Heavenly Father, we thank you that you are faithful to your plans, and that you will carry us through to the end. Help us, Lord, to make good decisions about who we put in charge. The potential for corruption is so great. Let us look for people who truly take responsibility and who truly care for others. We just pray this in your name. Amen. Once again, if you found today's content helpful, please be sure to subscribe to our channel, to ring the bell so that you are notified of new videos when they come up. Like and share this video. You can even help sponsor our weekly videos if you like. You can see Deborah about that. All these things help our community here and online and our growing YouTube channel. So for everybody who's already subscribed, thank you so much. And for all of you who are helping support the ministry and getting the word out there, we just appreciate you all very, very much. Let me close with this benediction. I promise not to go off on another rant. I'll just jump right to the benediction. As you leave this place, know that true leaders serve all people and not just themselves. God bless you all. Go in peace. You are dismissed. Thank you.
We are one in Christ, we are one in God, we are one in unity. We are one in truth, we are one in faith,